and they call that the triangle, I believe, right? Where it's time, or it's speed, service, and quality.
Yeah.
You can't
pick
have
two.
all three.
Right.
You can pick two. If you want all three, you're paying more.
Right.
Right. So it's actually it's price, time, speed, and quality. And so if you want all three, it's just going to cost you a lot more.
Right. But again, we did all that work.
All right.
Okay, folks, welcome to another 54 podcast. I'm sorry, it's 52.
Well, so
See, what am I doing? I'm nitpicking.
nitpicking
I'm
is a good point.
nitpicking.
So
Peter, what does nitpicking mean to us?
Oh my goodness! I had to put my drink down to have this because you just touched on a sore subject. I can completely understand that everybody's product is their baby, and they want to have their details heard more than their expertise viewed. Right? We're experts in what we're doing here, and let us do some of the parts that we need to do. But nitpicking about a name, or nitpicking about a logo creation. You got to get to a point where I think, customers need to realize that those are important, but they're the least important part of what we're doing here in terms of getting through the process.
Correct.
Right. You can't get tied up on these little micro decisions. You've got to get the holistic picture going and stop nitpicking on the little things that take up another 2-3 weeks of time when, we can be very good and succeed quicker.
Right. Now, we are coming off of a COVID year. So, our 21-week process, we've mapped it out for 21 weeks. We've taken an average of, over 200 clients and come up with what we feel is a pretty tight 21-week program. But we're not always able to hit that 21 weeks. And again, we don't charge any more for that. That's just a goal that we have with all of our clients. But I will tell you, some of the reasons we don't hit our goal is because we are spending way too much time on the early stage, and we call the early stage, the naming of the product.
There's a formula.
Yeah, Pete will tell you. I learned this from him. Apparently, every 2-word name has been taken on a .com has been taken since 1999. So we're not going to get a really solid two name.
2 names, 5 letters, 4 letters, 3 letters. Think about when those have been gone, right? So you're pretty much up to, I think, 7 or 8 to 10 letters. Even those are hard to do.
And we don't want to do a .co. We don't want to do a .us or whatever other dots that are out there. We need to be a .com. And our team is very good at coming up with great names that are maybe they're misspelled, but in a fun way, or we've gotten over to the Latin dictionary and figured out what that meaning might be in Latin. So
Urban Dictionary, Latin Dictionary,
or the Urban's even better.
Other languages. We look at in depth of like how many different ways we could say your name.
Right, but we'll come up with a very good name that we would feel very proud to associate with our own brand if it were our product. But we do have to kind of move through that phase, and then you get on to the next phase of the logo creation. Again, we have a great team of logo creators, and we're not going to give you 1 or 2. We're going to give you probably a dozen to look at. We do that because we want to see which ones you absolutely hate, so we know what not to give you the next time. And then some that you might like. You might like the color schemes, and we try to get to that. Listen, creating a logo and picking a logo shouldn't take more than a week. And
at least to that second to final revision, I can understand there's some little details that we're going to add or something that makes it just go that extra pop. But the reality is it shouldn't take more than a week.
Yeah, and again, I know it's important because it's your baby and it's something that you're going to see for a long time. But again, in the end,
I got to back you up a little bit because I still have my blood pressure's boiling going back to the name, and I'm going to just make this really fucking simple. Okay, at the end of the day, you can't have 2 names on you can't have 2 names. That's just it. So stop thinking 2 names. You can't have anything but a .com. And here's the easiest way to take a look at it. And I'm going to tell you for 2 reasons. If someone has the name already, you can't just add the in front of it. You can't add a in front of it or get. You are going to infringe on someone's copyright, trademark,
Yeah.
and that you can't do. The second thing is you have to. So the easiest way to check is if it's available as a .com. if it's available on Instagram, if it's available on Twitter, if it's available on Facebook, if it's available on uh, on
TikTok,
TikTok, not with any dashes, not with any periods, not with any like hyphens or
clean.
clean straight across. That all I am. And again, if you take a look at us and you want to follow us at 52 Lunch, anywhere that you want to find 52 Lunch content, you just at 52 Lunch on Instagram, Twitter. We are one solid, unified and the reason why I know that we're not infringing is because those were clean. If someone has that name, someone's going to have the name that you're looking for on some one of those platforms. And so we just saved you thousands upon thousands of dollars to do a name search with an attorney.
Right.
I still recommend you do the attorney search at that point, but people just have to get over the fact that you've got to pick a name quickly, and we have a process that does that. And again, for our product, you always, and again, what's Lori Greenier say? I over and over and over on Shark Tank. So if you don't know how to do this, just watch her. The name, what your product does, has to be somewhat in the name. You have to understand. You can't be Uber until you have 1 million followers. Then you can change your name to Uber.
Right.
Okay. At some point, you have to explain what you do so people get it.
Exactly.
So,
and again, unless you have $10 million to put in,
yeah, well, that's what they said.
And we have not had a client that's come to us with that kind of money. So
I think it was Steve Jobs or someone said it's 10 years or $10 million to build a brand.
Right.
That's
right. We're trying to do it in 21 weeks, and we have done successfully that. So, so again, that's the nitpicking part of it does slow up the process. Color schemes, color creations. Again, you're hiring us to do a job. We're really good at this. We've done it for 5 years and over 200 clients. So we're going to go out and look at your competition, and we kind of want to simulate them a little bit because they're recognizable. Why change dramatically from somebody else that you kind of want to aspire to be? It's okay that the consumer's confused as to, oh, is that company that I know for 20 years, or is it's good to have that that look. So we know what we're doing, but again, it ultimately comes down to the CEO, the entrepreneur, yourself, to make those decisions. But let's make them quickly, so we can get on to the more fun parts of the business, which is your branding packet, which is really essentially,
right. Which is where things really start to happen.
That's where you feel like you're a business, because you're going to see everything, all your collateral, all your logos, your vertical logos, your horizontal logos, what those are going to look like, black and white, different color schemes.
And well, to the black and white, just something simple like, if we're going to have a light color background versus a dark color background, you do have to change your logo to accommodate both those. So you can't just have one logo. There's flexibility in logos, and that's what I think people don't understand.
Right.
Sometimes it's just the favicon. Sometimes it's horizontal and vertical, like you said. And I think those are things that that's the meat and potatoes. And I guess that's the whole purpose of this show, is that it's really about, if you're going to focus on the micro decisions of everything, it'll take 3 years to 5 years to get your product to market.
And guess what? It still won't be perfect.
It still won't be perfect. In fact, the mistakes you'll make is because what you decided on 3 years ago changed. It's about being current. It's about getting there quickly. It's about getting there with, and all I can encourage people is, especially if you have people working with you, our job is to get rid of the million micro decisions and present to you the macro decisions that need to be discussed. And again, so that's where you get your input. Like, we've never created a logo or a brand or a name without the expressed involvement with all of our clients, right? The ones that like get it and understand our process and see the value in that we're bringing the big decisions, and some of our our team has kind of eliminated the shitty ones, so to speak. It's when we bring the good ones and someone goes back and wants to keep harping on the shitty ones. And at some point I'll give you what you want, but that's not the right choice.
And we keep saying this over and over in other podcasts. No one knows it's not perfect other than you.
Right.
Everybody else sees it as, for the first time, thinks it's awesome. And it's just, at some point, there has to be trust that
right.
We know what we're doing. We're guiding you in the direction that we would personally take ourselves.
and have taken
A
ourselves.
lot of people ask us about our logo, like what does 52 launch stand for? Well, obviously we couldn't get launch.com. That was taken. I think it was available for $250,000, but we're not going to pay that
Right.
for that brand. Um, but it really at the end of the day doesn't make any difference what 52 stands for. Guess what happens?
We've built
There's
a brand around it.
and it strikes a conversation.
Yep.
It gets people asking, "What do you guys do? Like, what is that?" And then you have a segue into a conversation with a person about your logo. So that's really what you want.
Well,
When someone sees your logo, what is like? I
what
understand.
is that?
Yeah, what is
To
that?
me, that's the most powerful question that anybody can ask you. In fact, when back in my days when I was designing trade shows, and even now when we go to trade shows, the number one thing I want people to ask and not have to like meet them in the middle of the aisle at the booth and accost them. I want them to look at us and go, "What is that?" Because that opens up a conversation for me to sell you something.
Exactly.
And when you step forward and volunteer, what is that? So there's a lot of that is really a big part of what we have to do. And so I'll apologize. I know there's a lot of background noise today. We were just for a Friday. We were extremely busy, even at 3:30, 4 o'clock. So it's hard to keep the set down in the middle of an open office. So again, we just opted to make it. We like the cool space and
Right.
be right in the middle of the thick of things.
So we're talking about nitpicking. That extends, unfortunately, to the creating of the actual product. And again, it's we call ourselves a launch company, and ultimately, when you hear the word launch, you hear of quick, fast, right? Those are the words
We're
that
not 52 Turtle.
right. And so we want to get to market quickly. Now, when you get to market quickly, you may be compromising on some things, but compromising on things that are really not relevant, like that they're not super important. We want to get to market so we can get feedback. That feedback is going to be vital to what we do next. And when it comes to designing the product, again, this just goes back to all the clients that we've worked with. The ones that nitpick are the ones that take a long time to get to market. And Peter alluded to this. I'm just thinking color scheme. The colors were in one year, and a year and a half later, we have a whole different color scheme that's more popular in that particular field. And, we have to rebrand to kind of stay relevant with that type of industry. So it just slows the whole process down.
Just for examples, 2019, coral pink is the number one color.
Yeah.
Last year, teal was back in. This year, again, I'd have to check with Luke and one of our. I guarantee you, someone on our team absolutely knows what this year's color of importance is.
Right.
So that's how important. Again, we're in tune with these things, and if you're trying to bring a color that represents something I'd say in the 80s, unless it's retro and cool, you got to be careful. You can't date yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's the critical thing, folks, is that your favorite color isn't necessarily the color we should pick. There is a madness behind everything that we do. We're going to present you with what we feel is the best approach to take, and hopefully you trust us. And if you don't, then we will go in your direction. It's just that we don't ever want to be the people that use those words, "I told you so." We'd rather just do it right the first time because, again, we're on a budget. And I mean,
Yeah, look, I'll give a little credit where I won't call it nitpicking, but those little added education, or sometimes nitpicking can be a value where, hey, if we could just make this one tweak, it would make the product better. Are we against that or for that?
more for that.
100%. So I don't want to make anybody
And
get this.
nitpicking when it comes to spelling, 100% for that too. We have to make sure things are spelled
Exactly.
properly.
So nitpicking in terms of like being accurate and detailed in certain areas is extremely vital. Putting it in places that aren't important, and I will tell you, and I'll say there's a pattern to this, and I've recognized it over 5 years. People who don't know how to do things, they don't nitpick about those things. Where they feel it's almost like they have an anxiety issue or a control issue, that they have to feel that they've put something extra into it or got their value out of us by nitpicking things that they feel they can control. And that's where, again, it's really hard. We're client centric, so I'm not going to sit here and tell a client that they're wrong. They're wasting our time, which is wasting your time, really. But let us do our part and present to you where we feel and what this is doing. If your nitpicking is, I would say, constructive criticism or constructive improvements, I love those. Those are conversations we'd love to have.
Right.
But when it's three shades of the same color different, let's move on, folks, because we've got so many more important things. There is just, that's one step in a million of things that we still have to accomplish.
Right.
So I'll acquiesce, but if it means taking another 2-3 weeks to have you say, I want to look at it this way, or can we just make, can you show me to me this way? At a certain point, Dan, you said it. It's a matter of trust. If you don't, if you're not someone who's capable of trust, and again, I will find that the clients that we have the most success with are the ones that I would say know how not to micromanage the process.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone who needs to be a micromanager, it's just tough.
So the last bullet in the nitpicking discussion, because we don't want to spend too much time on the nitpicking thing, because now we're nitpicking, is in the fulfillment selection. Again, we have vetted some really good fulfillment partners. We do not manage the fulfillment for our clients because, quite frankly, it's an extremely competitive space to begin with. If we have to manage that space, we're going to have to add margin, and we don't want to do that. So we just turn you over to a dedicated salesperson within that fulfillment company, and there's multiple ones to pick from. But at the end, we've had clients come back and say, well, they charge $2.25 to pick and pack, and this one's at $2.05. It's 20 cents higher. What should that's nitpicking, folks. I always tell people, I've run a company for 25 years. Leverage is the most important thing when you're working or when you're in life in general. Leverage is everything. Let's get leverage and then let's negotiate, rather than negotiating from the very beginning, because you want these fulfillment companies to make sure that they're shipping your product out on time. And if you're already negotiating nickels and dimes with them, it's not a good start. Let's blow up. Let's start shipping products out, and then go back to them and negotiate, because that's when they need you, and right now you need them. So it's just those things that let's not be penny wise and pound foolish, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's really what we're,
and especially in that
about.
field, look, it's so easy to look like somebody might be better. It really comes down to, you have to vet, and that means you have to go down and you have to walk through people. So again, I'm not going to refer, and I'm not even going to evaluate. We've spent years upon years evaluating fulfillment companies, and the ones we pick are the ones we know can handle the small volume, help us scale, have reasonable pricing in terms of their pick, pack, and storage fees, and also have really good rates. But most importantly, what do I need them to do, Dan?
Service is going to be
Service. It's
incredible.
got to be there. They have to be able to connect to our Shopify accounts without us having to hire techs and coders to connect to them, right?
And guess what? You're all new to this to begin with, so you want somebody holding your hand through that process. So look, at one thing I learned from the very onset of running a company, again, 25 years now. I look at things differently today than I did maybe 15 years ago. You're always going to find the cheapest out there. You're always going to find somebody that's expensive. I like to play in the middle ground, right in the spot where it makes sense. There's got to be a reason they're the cheapest, because if they're the cheapest, that means their service is horrible, most likely, because they have to be cheap. If they're expensive, that means they're an amazing company, but they're probably just too big for us at this point in time. Let's just play in the middle where the pricing's consistent, it's favorable to both parties, and with that company we can build a relationship with, and we probably can get better pricing.
Well, and that's a good point, because they call that the triangle, I believe, right? Where it's time, or it's speed, service, and quality.
Yeah.
You can't have
two.
all three.
Right.
You can pick two. If you want all three, you're paying more.
Right.
Right. So it's price, time, speed, and quality. And so if you want all three, it's just going to cost you a lot more.
Right. But again, we did all that work for our clients, because at the end of the day, if we're making a product for you and we're shipping it into a fulfillment company and they're not delivering it for you, that doesn't work for us. It certainly doesn't work for you, but just as much as it doesn't work for us,
Yeah.
because we need that product moving.
And I think that's the approach with everybody. It's just it comes down to making that it's that triangle. It's it's not called nitpicking, but there's only so much time and effort and speed we can put into every part of these things because we really have to get the entire process completed.
Right.
And so let's talk about what holds up, right? The reason why the naming is so important is because we can't start the logo process until we have a name. If we spend just as much time on the logo process, it holds up the branding packet. And why is that important? Because at some point, the branding packet is tied to the packaging or on the product, right? If you want to put your nice logo on your product, um, we can't start, we have to wait for the logo to be created before we can talk to manufacturers because I want to make sure we're getting accurate quotes. So our
Right.
design team can't do that. Well, if our design team can't get that done because you're holding us up or it's being held up because of too much time, then the production team can't get their designs done. It's such a little ripple effect that's why those go longer.
It is, and the other thing that's a misnomer is that that ripple effect isn't day to day. That's not one day is equals one day.
No.
Never that case. Like, oh, I'm only a day behind, so you should be no. It's like one day behind is probably a week behind for
Yeah,
production
and months behind when you
because
get to the production
they're
level.
slotting somebody else in that spot because they cannot wait. They have to keep those machines running consistently, and so it's always important to try to stay on schedule. We try our very best to do so, but again, Pete's right. We're customer centric. We you hired us, and you guys are the CEOs. You're the visionaries, and we want to follow that lead. But look, you're paying us money to for our expertise, and I think that we do a pretty good job for all of our clients picking the right options.
Yeah, no, we've there's not a brand that we haven't developed that we
We're
would
not
say.
proud of
Yeah,
exactly.
even the ones that we didn't have as much control or input into, we still put our touch on it to make sure it was the best logo and brand that we could develop in as many ways as we could.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It's not about nitpicking. I think let's turn this topic now just into speed, all right? Because again, what is your competitive advantages in market? It's price and speed to market. To me, those are the two things, especially if a new product or a new idea or a new industry is emerging. Getting there first and getting there fast is important.
Right.
And that's important to us, right? And why is that important to us?
Well, we're eventually gonna get knocked off, and we need to make sure that our price is competitive so we can control the market.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody else that knocks us off may or may not be direct with the manufacturer, but if we're there first, we've built our brand first, and we can control price, then we're gonna, we'll get be at the top of the page somewhere.
that's right. And for us to be fast, and again, it's not for us to be fast. We don't have to be fast. We do this because it benefits all of our clients. At some point, the faster you get to market, the faster you get to a point where you can start selling and recoup your investment. I think that's really the key here. Is that
It's that might be the number one question that our entrepreneurs ask us at probably about halfway through the 21-week program. When am I going to start to see some money coming in? And trust me, people, we want that money coming into you quickly too. It's, we don't want to, you say this a lot, we don't want to be on the wrong side of the balance sheet. So
right?
our goal is to get you to market as quickly and as professionally as possible, which always ties back to,
That ripple effect.
we just need to get through the steps, and we promise that you're not going to be embarrassed by the results. You're not going to be embarrassed by your look. We can make subtle changes. Every company has done so.
In fact, I'll make that statement right now without checking it with you. If you're one of our clients, I'd rather get to market with something we believe we can sell and then start selling. And then if you still need us to go back and make changes, I'd be happy to do that at no cost. Right? That's how important it is to me because once you get to the point and revenue's coming in, I think really it's confidence.
Yeah,
I think the reason why
a
you
lot of things
nitpick
change.
is because you're not confident. I'm not saying that you're not confident, but maybe you're not confident and that you want to stay in this zone. The minute you start selling product, how much more confidence do you have in making decisions? It's
A
like
lot.
a lot. So,
And you also feel better about yourself as well, obviously.
and I think at that point you have the confidence to also say that's not worth taking any more time on. Look, I think we're different than any other launch company out there. is our focus is to get to market quickly, right? 52 launch, not 52 turtle. To do it with a structured process that's focused on sales. We want to
It's at
get
a great price.
oh
We always have to start off with the best pricing.
yeah, and to us again, we can't go to market selling from an empty shelf. So when does a client get their money back? The minute we can get online and start advertising or start looking for organic or looking for influencers that will start buying your product. That's why our moniker is from napkin to revenue. Once we start getting revenue, then we understand how to get more revenue every day, and that's building a business now.
Well, this isn't going to be a long 1 hour podcast with nitpicking because, quite frankly,
it's just not our style.
Yeah, it's not our style.
But we were encouraged to find something that bothers us, so I guess that was the one that we do nitpick about, but we don't because we're customer centric. And at the end of the day, it really is a matter of getting through a process. And then if you feel that you need to go back and relook at the process, I would recommend get through the entire process and then go and fix each individual item and improve it. That's
while we're selling.
While we're selling,
Yeah.
right? Until we're selling, let's just get to sales. That's the first part. So,
great.
On that note, I think it was another good podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Please follow us,
like us.
If you have questions or if you'd like to have a topic that we discuss in our
That's
one
a great
of our
idea,
podcasts,
Pete. Yeah.
please reach out to us.
Yeah, reach out to us and ask us some questions, and we can actually do a podcast on a bunch of questions that we get asked.
So again, you can reach us at podcast@52launch, or you can go to the website 52launch.com and click the Got an Idea button, or you can just email again at ideas@52launch.
And you're always welcome to come visit us at 1630 Concord Street in Framingham, Massachusetts.